Ann Arbor Inclusive is produced in part with the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues and CTN. The views and opinions expressed in the show do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the Commission or CTN. For more information about the Commission on Disability Issues, visit a2gov.org/disability resources. If you have program topic suggestions, please email a2disabilityissues@gmail.com.
Hi, I'm Tom Holtland, and I am your host of Ann Arbor Inclusive, a division of the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues. Today, we're bringing to you some vital information about the visually impaired and blind communities. We'll be talking to the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons, and Paige Lloyd is joining us today to tell us all about what they do, talk about some terminology, and talk about how you might be able to make a referral. So with that, I'd like to welcome Paige Lloyd to Ann Arbor Inclusive.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you. So let's talk about, kind of a short pitch on what it is that your department does.
Yep, sure. So we are the Bureau of Services for Blind Persons. We are a state vocational rehabilitation agency, and we work within the Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity. Our mission at BSBP is to provide opportunities to individuals who are blind or visually impaired to achieve employment and also to achieve maximum and meaningful independence in life through comprehensive rehabilitative services. And so it's our vision to help Michigan become a better state for blind and visually impaired persons to be equal contributing citizens that enjoy all the advantages of a full and independent life.
Very cool. And I know we're going to talk more detail about your programs in a moment, but let's start out with who you serve. I think there's always this division of, well, what does blind, what does visually impaired, what does legally blind mean? So I'm going to let you tell us who you serve and then maybe talk about that terminology.
Sure. Yep. So we serve individuals who are legally blind in various capacities. So individuals looking to gain employment or to keep competitive and integrative employment. We work with legally blind students who are making that transition into secondary higher education or into the work world. And then we also work with legally blind individuals who are looking for independent living skills. And so when I say legally blind, there are some people I've worked with who were in disbelief that they were considered legally blind because they could still see. And so with legal blindness, it's a wide variety of vision that you can have. So you can have some usable vision and be considered legally blind. And then you could also, on the opposite end, have no light perception or light perception where you see lights and shadows and be considered legally blind. So there is actually a legal definition of legal blindness, and that is if an individual has a visual acuity with best correction of 2200 or worse in their better eye, or another way a person could be considered legally blind is if their visual fields subtend an angle of less than 20 degrees in the best eye with correction. Now I can break that down for you because that was a lot of weird way to word it. But basically what that means when we say 2200 visual acuities. So we may have heard of someone who has 20/20 vision. So imagine that person with 20/20 vision goes to their eye doctor and they're stood in front of an eye chart. They're 20 feet away from that eye chart. And at the top of that chart is an E, and it's a big crisp E. They see it with sharp detail. Now let's move that person 200 feet away from that eye chart. And suddenly that E is not so crisp, it's not so sharp. So basically a person with 2200 visual acuity, if they're stood in front of that eye chart 20 feet away, they're gonna see that E with that same fuzzy distortion that a person with 20/20 vision sees standing 200 feet away. And so when we also talk about a visual field loss of 20 degrees, basically what that means is that vision starts to deteriorate and you're left with what's basically is a pinhole vision. So you're seeing through just a tiny hole. So a little bit of a trivia for you is that a person could technically be have 20/20 vision, but still be considered legally blind because they're just looking through that pinhole.
Okay. And is this a myth that when you hear someone say he is blind and doesn't use visually impaired, that I've always heard that meant you saw no light, you saw no shapes, that you basically saw black or saw nothing at all. Is that the case?
It can be. There are some people that do use that term to describe that total darkness, and then some people might prefer the term visual impairment if they do have some usable vision.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about your programs. I know I have a whole list of them, and I don't know if you want me to go down and label them, or if you want to just take it from here as far as explaining the detail of your programs.
Sure, yeah, I can just go down the list.
Okay.
So I'll start with our vocational rehabilitation program. This is for legally blind individuals who are 14 and older. And so the purpose of this program is to assist blind and visually impaired, as well as deafblind individuals to become employed in a career that suits their current or potential skills and abilities. And so what we do is we provide diagnostic evaluations, vocational counseling, and training in skills of blindness at no cost to the customer. And depending on their needs, we may also include additional services such as low vision equipment, vocational training, technical school training, a college education, job development, job placement, and as follow-up to just make sure that they're still suited for that position that they were employed in.
When you said college education, what were you referring to?
A bachelor's degree, master's, even doctorates.
Okay. Helping someone get into the program or helping?
Oh, helping to fund the program.
Fund it. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, as well as to prepare for getting into the program as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you're working with our vocational rehabilitation program, you're working with a vocational rehabilitative counselor. And so this counselor also works closely with businesses and creates partnerships with them. And so this provides assistance to identify and hire qualified employees, creating successful employment outcomes for clients and employers. So one of the things that we do is a job site analysis where a vision rehabilitation therapist, such as myself, we go into the job site, we look at their job duties, we look at the technology they might be using, and we can come up with any sort of accommodations or recommendations that would help to make the job more accessible if necessary. Some other things we can provide are job coaching, technical assistance and equipment, work-based learning opportunities, and also continued support, education, and coordination.
Okay, all right.
We also have an independent living program. This is broken down into two parts. We have our independent living older blind program, which is for individuals who are 55 and older. And then we also have our independent living Part B program. There's not an age requirement for this program, but a person does need to have another disability in addition to their vision loss. And so with this program, we are providing independent living skills and training to individuals who do not necessarily have a vocational goal. So depending on their needs, we provide independent living skills training to allow people to remain independent in their home and in their communities.
Very good.
We also have some programs for the younger kids. We have our pre-employment transition services. And so this is for those who are aged 14 up until they turn 26. And so Pre-ETS is designed to be an early start at job exploration, assisting students with identifying career interests to be further explored through any sort of additional VR services. And so there are 5 categories that are required when working with our pre-ETS students, and that's job exploration counseling, work-based learning experiences, counseling and opportunities for enrollment in comprehensive transition or post-secondary educational programs, workplace readiness training to develop social skills and independent living, and then finally instruction in self-advocacy. And so what we do is we focus in on those 5 categories and we create programs based off of that. And they're kind of like camps. So these could be day camps, they can be over the weekend camps, they could be 1 week, 2 weeks, just depending on the camp. And we do kind of focus in on a variety of different career opportunities for students who might not have thought of the different possibilities out there.
Okay.
So for example, we had a program just a couple of weeks ago up in Traverse City at the Great Wolf Lodge. And so that was kind of focused on hospitality and what it's like to work the front desk, what it's like to work the laundry service. And they also did mock interviews. We have a couple programs coming up where people are going to spend a day at an equestrian center and learn how to work with horses. And then we also have a STEM camp coming up with working in astronomy and working with 3D printers and working with someone who worked on the Hubble telescope.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of education, and the kids really enjoy it, and so do we.
Are there any other services for the youth?
Yes, so we also have our Youth Low Vision program. So this is for those from birth up until they turn 14. With this program, they actually do not need to be legally blind. They could have what we consider low vision, which is 20/70 for their visual acuities. And so with this program, we assist to provide students with head-borne devices. So when I say head-borne, I mean like glasses, contact lenses, bioptics, goggles, that sort of thing. And so we provide these devices, which will allow the students to participate as fully as possible in an educational setting. And so with this program, we actually work with the teacher consultants for the visually impaired. They work within the school districts and they send referrals to us of the students that they're working with. And then what BSBP does is we fund for a low vision evaluation and also for up to 2 of those head-borne devices.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah. We
And
also
go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead.
We also have our business enterprise program. So what this is we provide training and licensing for legally blind individuals to manage food service operations all over Michigan. So these facilities can be found in both federal and state buildings as mandated by law through the Randolph-Shepard Act. And they provide vending services on Michigan state highways. So whenever you stop at a rest area on the highway, those vending machines are owned and operated by a legally blind person.
And is that the same for, so in addition to all the like rest stops or welcome centers in the state, where else would you find machines, vending machines that are operated by people with who are legally blind under this program?
Yep. In any sort of state building or federal building that has a vending machine, and even if it may be a cafeteria too, that anything found in that state or federal building.
Okay. All right. So in post offices, and as an example, post offices and why am I drawing a blank? Like the state capitol, et cetera.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I think that's such a cool program. I love
It
that.
is. Yeah, it's a really great program.
Yeah. I mean, it's teaching hands-on, it's teaching the business aspect of it. And for probably at some point, customer service.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I understand that you have training services. So let's talk about those.
Yes. So we have a training center and it is located in Kalamazoo. And so the training center is a residential facility that provides essential training to our customers. So the staff at the training center, they evaluate individual potential, they assist in personal adjustment to blindness, and develops basic skills for employment and independent living. So it's basically an all-in-one building where our customers will go to, and they will stay there as well as learn there. So they have classrooms. There's an intro, or not an intro, there's a Braille class, an intro to computer class, or more advanced computer class. There is a kitchen that has 2 fully working oven ranges and stoves, microwaves, crock pots, whatever you need for kitchen use.
Wow.
There is an industrial arts class where they work on woodworking. So learning how to use adaptive tape measuring, learning how to use a hammer, adaptive ways for sawing and using a saw machine or a circle saw. Whatever you might need to do for woodworking, they have it. There's also an occupational therapy class where people can learn adaptive ways for sewing on buttons, where they can learn adaptive ways to use a sewing machine and other crafts. They also have orientation and mobility specialists, and these are the ones that teach our customers how to use the long white cane, the proper use and techniques for those canes, how to listen for traffic cues when crossing the street, how to use the bus, how to use door-to-door service, and more. There's also cafeteria where they are served breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then they each have their own dorm room, essentially, where they have their own room. It's a twin size bed. They have an armoire closet type deal and a desk, and they get their own bathrooms. And there's also 2 apartments in the building where a person who would like to live on their own can get an idea of what that's going to be like by living in the apartment that has a kitchen in it. They're responsible for maintaining the apartment and for cooking their meals.
And how long can they stay there?
Yeah, so depending on the program is how long they can stay there. A person who might be in the independent living program, their stay is going to be for about 4 weeks. Now, if you're in the vocational rehabilitation program, that one is going to be a bit more dependent on your needs and your established goals. So it could be 11 weeks, but it could also be like 8 months.
Okay, all right. That's really cool. And I bet that what that does is, even though you get your own room, your own dorm room or apartment, I bet organic peer mentoring happens all the time.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
The camaraderie of having a common disability is so powerful. And I know that firsthand.
Yes. Yeah. I always tell people that it's going to be kind of like a little support group too when you go, because you're around people who have that vision loss and know what it's like, and you can talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And not only that, you can talk about shortcuts and,
oh, definitely. Yeah.
oh, this is what I do at home to do this or that. Those are all such vital information that some others might kind of take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right. And then what about your Braille services?
Yes. So we have a Braille and talking book library. This Braille and talking book library serves people who are unable to use standard print material due to either a visual or physical disability. So again, for this program, they do not need to be legally blind in order to be eligible for services. A person who has dyslexia could be eligible for services. A person who might have difficulties holding a book or turning the pages, they could also be considered eligible for those services. And so what the Braille and Talking Book Library offers is they have bestsellers, they have mysteries, westerns, biographies, how-to books, and other magazines that you can find in a public library. And these books and magazines are available in Braille and also in audio format, and they will arrive at your door through the U.S. Postal Service at no cost to you. So once you get your book, whether it's in Braille or audio, you can peruse that book, and then once you're done, you just put it back in your mailbox and it gets sent back to the library.
I like that. That's great. So almost any book adapted for someone who is legally blind?
They have, I believe it's over 10,000 books, maybe even, I think more. But yeah, they have a lot of books, and they also have a recording studio. So if there's not a book that's available, they could work on making that book available in audio format or Braille format.
Yeah, and there's so many books that come out now, and the author does the audio version too, because a lot of people, disabled or not, like listening to audio like in their house, in their car, versus reading. Yeah, I'm one of those. When I read, I have to go back and reread some things, you know.
I do
"Oh,
too.
I
Yeah.
got this wrong." So, and if I'm listening to it, I pay better attention.
I am the same way. I like to listen to books when I'm in the car.
Yeah, yeah. So I imagine that, you know, there are a number of ways that someone could either be born or end up with legal blindness, visually impairment. Can you tell us, you know, are there diseases that happen? Are there illnesses that happen? Or you know, we know that some people are born blind. So can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, so there are a lot of different diseases, eye diseases that can result in blindness. The more common ones that we see is age-related macular degeneration. So the macula is kind of at the back of your eye, and that's responsible for your central vision. It's responsible for your fine details. It's responsible for your color vision. And so when they develop macular degeneration, what happens is they start to lose that central vision. They start to lose that fine detail and color vision. They still might have that peripheral vision, but they do start to lose that central vision. Another common eye disease we see is glaucoma. So this is caused by high blood pressure in the eye. And what this does is it decreases the vision in your peripheral vision. So you're left with that central small hole of a vision. Another common one that we see is diabetic retinopathy. And so this is caused by symptoms from type 2 or type 1 diabetes. And so what this causes is for your vision is the best way to describe it is if you're looking through a slice of Swiss cheese. So it's kind of got that holy holes in your vision and black spots.
Okay.
Yeah. And then cataracts is another one. Cataracts is like a film over your eye. So it makes things a bit fuzzy, a little bit distorted. Cataracts can be removed and can restore vision. However, there are some customers who might also have macular degeneration or glaucoma in addition to their cataracts. And your eye doctor might determine that removing the cataracts wouldn't necessarily help with the vision, so they don't go through with the surgeries to remove that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know. In fact, my brother-in-law always wore glasses, and after he had his cataracts removed, he didn't need glasses any longer. So they must be very disabling, cataracts.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And so let's see, how about briefly on devices? Do you want to mention some devices that you support and provide?
Yeah. So for me, when working with in the independent living program, I work with independent living skills in the home. So a lot of the work that I do is providing assistive devices. And so some of these devices could be a talking watch, a large button phone. They could be magnifiers, magnified and illuminated nail clippers, magnified and illuminated mirrors. And also a lot of what we do is working on adaptive skills in the kitchen. So a lot of kitchen related items like large or brailled measuring cups and spoons, double spatulas, talking meat thermometers. We also provide like large oven mitts or oven rack guards. one of my favorite things to provide are bump dots. And so what these are they tactual stickers. And so these are really handy. They're a low technology device, which I always like and appreciate. They can go on a microwave, so that flat surface where there are a bunch of buttons, and you can put a sticker on the buttons so that you can identify where that start button is, where that 1 minute button is. And same for on an oven range, like where's the bake, where's the increased temperature, where's the cancel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having controls to your stovetop be right in front, that you're not reaching over the burners.
Exactly.
If possible.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, I want to make sure you tell the audience how people are referred to you, because I imagine there's going to be, even adult children of elderly parents that, want to approach their parent about, their sight. Maybe they want them to stop driving or something like that. So how would they and others be in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. So you can refer yourself. You can refer a loved one, a family member, a friend. We also get referrals from eye doctors, from general practitioners. But a lot of our referrals are self-referred. And so we do have a 1-800 number that you can call if you're interested in services for yourself or for someone you may know. And that number is 1-800-292-4200.
Okay. All right. And are there any success stories that stand out in your mind over your career with the Bureau?
Oh boy. I think for me, working with my customers, a lot of my customers, when I first start working with them, they're confused, they're lost, they don't know basically what they're capable of doing, because there's not a lot of information out there on what sort of adaptive or assistive devices or trainings available. And so for me, it's just being able to work with someone and let them know that you can tell time again with a talking watch, or you can use a cell phone. So for me, that always stands out. And
Yeah. The pure happiness that comes over you when you achieve some of these goals that others take for granted, as brushing your teeth, or like you said, cooking, or any what seemingly mundane items can be huge successes that are celebrated. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Paige, unfortunately, we're out of time, but you did give us a really good idea of what you do at the Bureau. And we so appreciate you taking the time. And I know that your information will be on screen in case people have other questions or want to do a self-referral. And so thank you again for coming and giving us this really good information. Again, I'm Tom Holtland, the host of Ann Arbor Inclusive Community Television Network, and we are a program of the Ann Arbor Commission on Disability Issues. I thank you for tuning in to Ann Arbor Inclusive. You are what makes us come in and do this show. So we appreciate your viewing, and we'll see you next time on Ann Arbor Inclusive.